Started out in my 20s, like with a couple of rent houses, and I kind of got a taste for it, that there could be a possible cash flow income at the end of every month. That they like to call it passive. It's not really passive, so I learned that too. And then I didn't like landlording, so I had about 25 houses, and I just wasn't making any money because all the money I was supposed to make on paper was going out the window. Because of all the liabilities that I had as a landlord or as an owner of the property. So then I got scared and I just wanted to sell, and I was trying to exit the business when
you were thinking about leaving real estate?
Yeah, I was a disgruntled landlord, and I'd had it, and all the study that I'd done had been like, it's going to be like another business that didn't work out. And I couldn't sell the houses in the neighborhoods where I had houses. No one that wanted to buy my houses could get a new loan. And so I was very depressed about that, and I was scared. And then someone suggested, well, why don't you owner finance them, and then you won't be responsible for all this stuff, and you'll get a little down payment, and it'll be their house, not your house, and you'll just collect the money like the bank. And I thought, well, I'll try that. So within like 90 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever, short period of time, because everybody had $3,000, $3,000 or $4,000.
Right.
So do the math. I had 25 people gave me $3,000 down.
Yeah.
That was $75,000 in the bank right away. I thought, well, this is much different than a landlording. And then
and it's not
in the same spread that I thought I was going to make as a landlord, I was really making as the bank, as the financier. The only difference was it was going to end in 15 years or 20 years, which seems like forever to a young man anyways. It still kind of seems like forever if you have to wait 15 years for something. So waiting for a payment to end seemed all right with me. And so the phone calls quit, the bothersome phone calls stopped. People stopped leaving, they started staying. People stopped tearing my house down, they started fixing it up. And I thought, well, and then the note buyers called me. They wanted to know how much I wanted for that note. And I said, I don't know, how much will you give me? I owed like 35. I mean, they owed me 35 and they said they'd give me like 30.
Yeah.
And I owed like 17.
Right.
And I said, okay, can you do that 25 times? And they said, yeah, I can. I wish I'd have slowed down a little bit because I gave a lot away that I probably shouldn't have, but never looked back, right? All I know is I looked up and now I had $400 and something thousand in the bank. I went from destitute and disgruntled landlord trying to get out, and the business was kind of holding me in because I couldn't get out. And then all of a sudden, right behind the gut-wrenching, horrific, sweating at night, worrying struggle, there comes the sun, and then there it was, and I said, okay, I wonder how fast I can make that turnaround from purchase, owner finance, and sell the note. And back in the day, you could sell a note before they even made their first payment. So I just started up this mill machine, and I think the biggest year we did 150 houses and sold 97.
So you're buying the house, you're selling it, and then selling the note all within a short period of time?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes
all at one closing.
Oh, wow.
Like, I have it under contract to buy it. I found the guy who wants to owner finance it. I found the note buyer who will buy the note if I owner finance this house that I buy to that guy. And I do a triple closing. We called it a grand slam.
Wow.
And when you don't have money, you became very attuned to what had to line up to make that happen.
Yeah.
And one of the main things that has to line up if you're going to sell a house before you own it, which I'm going to show you maybe one today, is you got to have access, and the house has to be livable. If you have those two things, and you have to have time, of course. So I have a contract that has like some time.
Yeah.
I found a way to get into the house, that's not breaking and entering. And on this one it's easy. I have an agreement with the person. They just said, here, do what you want to do. They're out of town.
Right.
It really helps when they're out of town. And then I found the person who wants to move into that house with owner financing. So in about 15 days from now, I'll go to this house that I'll show you, and I'm going to buy the house, and then I'm going to create the note, and then in this case I'm not going to sell the note because it's in my IRA. But I'm going to buy it and sell it on the same day within the first 10 minutes.
Wow.
And the other thing I like about owner financing is I don't need an appraisal because me and the buyer are the underwriter. If they agree that on the value, then that's the value, and we don't have to get anyone's approval because I don't like getting people's approval for anything.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't like to wait for anyone to tell me I can or I can't. So I try to find systems where I make the decision. If I'm owner financing houses, I'm making all the decisions.
I'm really fascinated by this concept. So you were almost at a point of leaving real estate. Was it a person, a book, or how did you get turned on to the concept of owner financing versus renting?
You know, I say it 100 times. I read all these concepts and I read about this stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, I have to get hit in the head with a baseball bat, real life, real time. The bee has to sting me. The burner on the stove has to burn my hand.
Right.
That's how I learn. I'm sorry to say it. Seems like I should be smarter than that, but I always am pushing those limits or not believing or not understanding until it happens to me. So when those note buyers came and bought that first note, everything changed.
So you didn't necessarily go seek out the note buyers. Some note buyer found you.
Yeah, they were down at the courthouse pulling people up that were carrying notes. But the person who changed my mind was my mentor here in town, who you know, I find when I get in trouble or I get scared or I'm getting in some kind of pickle, I go try to find people that I know have probably been in that pickle before, and I try to meet with them. They're usually more successful than I am, and they're usually older than I am. And I try to go find those people and say, look, I'm in this position. What do you see my choices are? What can I do? And then the guy's, you know, he said it so fast off the tip of his tongue that I thought, man, someone must have told him I was coming and then warned him of the question that I had. Because he said, just owner finance it and start collecting the payment, you'll be fine. And then I walked off. And I went home and was struggling with it. Owner finance it. What does that mean I have to do? It means I have to get a down payment. I have to do all this stuff. Called him up and asked him, okay, so if I'm going to do that, what do I do? And he laid out the ABCs, gave me a contract, showed me what it looked like.
Yeah.
Said I could use it. And then he told me to put the ad. And I just did what he said. And it happened once, and then I put them all 25. And I went and talked to all the people that were in the house and said, you want to own the house or you don't want to own the house? If they didn't want to own the house, I gave them their notice.
If you were going to rent versus owner finance a deal, would there be a difference in the amount of rehab you put into it? Is there a difference in the decision-making process?
Oh yeah. I can sell a house that's fallen. I can owner finance a house that's fallen off its foundation with a hole in the roof. I can owner finance that house to someone who wants to do the work. Okay. At a price, at a term.
If you're going to rent it, you have to have it ready.
I bought a house on Belmont, $12,000. I put it for $31,000 with $1,000 down. You fix it. They're putting a new foundation under it right now. They're putting a new roof on it tomorrow. They're going to put all the siding and all the windows and all the doors in. It's not livable. Wow. Could I rent a non-livable house?
No, and you couldn't
get
a third-party loan on it either.
Right. Well, that's why dealing with private money is so important.
Yeah.
You got to be able to make your own. See, I don't want to wait on the bank to tell me that they're going to loan me money on this $12,000 POS on the south side.
Right.
So, actually, this one was on the east side. Shotgun house, really. It was nothing but for $12,000. I thought I can certainly owner finance it for 24 at 14%, or 30 at 12. You know, the lower the amount of money that you're financing, the higher you can drive the interest rate because there's not enough dollars to make a difference. So, and 2% on 24,000 is really not a big deal. But if you did that 100 times, now you're making 14% on $1 million or $500,000. 14% versus 10 is a lot. Yeah. But it doesn't hurt the individual in the house because they're borrowing such a tiny bit of your whole portfolio.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why the mobile homes appeal to me because I was buying them for 6 and owner financing them for 20.
A lot bigger margin.
Yeah, but it was a lot of moving parts. But I was young enough and ambitious enough to accept the moving parts and go ahead and do it. And then it turned out very well. And thank goodness that I found that one deal that showed me the light, and then I went on to a whole career after that. Yeah. Which is kind of why I like to tell the new people, I mean, pick your first deal pretty good because it could be the difference of you being in the business for the rest of your life or you being out of the business the rest of your life.
Sure, if you get stung on your first one.
The other thing I like to tell them is if you make a whole lot of money on your first deal, that's almost as bad because that will ruin you.
I think every deal's going to go that way.
Yeah, if you think every deal's going to make you $40,000, $50,000 or $30,000, you got to think again. Yeah. So I went to owner financing houses and selling the notes, or getting the people inside the house to get refinanced. See, I think the secret to my success and the reason why I'm still here after a 3-year recession is because I never borrowed up on the equity. I never used that model. If I bought a house for 12 and they owed me and it was worth 65, the only way I get that money out is to owner finance it and sell the note, or get someone else to get a new loan and buy it from me, or get someone to pay me cash for it. But I never take money out of my houses until that house is someone else's responsibility. I'll take the money if the house goes away.
I gotcha.
And so I never borrowed up. All the people that went broke during this time, You know, they had a $100,000 house, they bought it for 50, and then they went to the bank and they borrowed 90,000 on it.
Yep.
And then when the tide turned, their negative cash flows sunk them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the gurus, even that he taught that or that lived that, went broke and filed bankruptcy. A lot of the gurus that we used to know, I think they're all kind of getting over the hill now.
All right, so owner went from renting houses to owner financing houses.
And then Californian or the out-of-state investors started driving up the prices of the houses so high that there weren't any deals. So I moved, the cheese moved again. So then I moved over to mobile homes because at the time there were 70,000 repos on mobile homes because our legislature in their infinite wisdom had decided to protect the consumer that they would not allow the land to be financed separate from the mobile home. That the person who wanted to buy a mobile home had to get one loan to finance both of them, which killed that business. Because anyone who wanted to live in a mobile home couldn't qualify for a loan for that much. They could get an owner finance piece of land, and they could finance the mobile home with the bank.
Right.
That was like $25,000, but they couldn't get a loan for 25 and 25. They couldn't get a loan for 50.
Oh, sure.
So that business went to the skids, and so there was 70,000 mobile homes on repo lots in the state of Texas. And if you would buy 15 or 20 of them, you could pick them up. A 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home. You could pick it up for $6,000 with the air conditioner sitting in the living room. And then you could. And so what's the dynamic that was making that cheap? The dynamic was no one would finance it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how come when you buy it it's worth 22? When you bought it it's worth 6, and when you sold it it's worth 22. What's that dynamic?
Mm-hmm.
I changed the terms of the financing. At 6,000 there was no terms. Had to write a check, and you had to buy 20 of them.
Right.
At $22,000 you could buy one, and you only needed $2,000 down, and you could pay it out over 10 or 12 years. That's what changed the whole price.
Wow.
I made $22,000 affordable to the common man, and I made it compete with rents.
Yeah.
I made it competitive with rents.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what I like to do in all these. That's the dynamic that I like to use. Change the terms.
Mm-hmm.
I buy on one set of terms, and I change the terms, and that's not the paint, not the carpet, that changes a little bit of it, and that might give you a little different kind of customer.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it's a better or worse customer, because there's arguments for both sides. But what changes the price or the value is the change of the terms.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple.
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I'll sell you this building right now, Brian. You want to buy it?
Sure.
Sure. Your question is, under what conditions, right?
Right.
Yeah. I want you to write me a check for it. I need $550,000. Will you write me a check for it?
No.
No?
I'll just check for it.
Can't do it today, right? Or don't want to do it today, whatever.
Right.
Okay, how about this? Give me $10,000 down, $2,000 a month for 60 years.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Well, sure, because the rents, I got to tell you, the rents in here are around 7,500,
So I'd be cash flowing pretty well, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I can change your mind in 1 minute.
Right.
A few seconds ago, you didn't have a building in your future.
Yeah.
10 seconds later,
Just by messing with the
10
terms.
seconds later, you're thinking about owning a building. I mean, I could sell you that building on those terms. I promise you, I could.
Yeah.
I just need to show you what I got and what the income is and the spaces. But I'll sell you the building on those terms like that.
Sure. And would that be profitable for you too?
I mean, that would be the rub. And you would have to get into more minutia, and I'd have to think more to make it work. It wouldn't be quite a good a deal for you, and it wouldn't be so long for me, but I could still make it work.
Yeah, exactly. So mobile homes, houses, mobile homes, and then you expanded into storage?
Well,
And some commercial?
sometimes during the time that I was doing the houses, you see, I realized a dynamic about house flipping. Because I read the books where you can make house flipping a business and you can go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it. I really don't. I think house flipping is me. For the simple reason that if I train anyone to do what I know how to do, then they don't need to work for me anymore. They're on their own, which has happened to me a lot.
Right.
Which is fine, and I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hold anybody down. But house flipping business is me. Pretty much. It's my instinct. It's my money. I'm risking. Do I want to leave my money and go on vacation and let someone else go buy houses for me? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were really good at it, they wouldn't be buying houses for me. They'd buy houses for themselves. So
Yeah.
I'm getting a second-rate person just right off the bat if they wanted to work for me. So I wanted to flip houses to make cash, or to make big cash flow so that I could mount up cash.
Right.
And then I wanted to put it into something that I could sell as a business. And so what I thought, what's a good business? I like the mini storage business. Now, the person who manages the mini storage business is not likely going to go out and buy 16 locations and acquire 1,000 units any day soon.
Right.
You know, I can train them everything about how to manage the mini storage business, but they're not going to be able to buy the mini storages.
Mm-hmm.
Per se, you know. I hope that the person that I train buys 1 million of them, but they're probably not.
In general.
But if I train someone how to buy houses, and I already know this, they're going to go out and buy houses because I already trained a lot of people in this town that I wanted to partner with, or that I wanted to work with, or that I wanted to be employees, that just saw enough and went on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all right. I just learned that that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I buy and flip houses to generate cash, massive cash flow, so I can stack up cash, and then I invest that cash in, I want to invest it in some kind of business that can be run absentee. Mini storage is real easy business. Collect the money, don't collect the money. Here's step A, B, C, D, E, F.
Sure.
Put someone else in.
Right.
Okay?
And it's just stuff.
And then, when you get it all together and you get a whole bunch of them running, you can put a price tag on that because there's companies that will pay a premium for that kind of business.
Uh-huh.
Like an apartment complex is kind of the same way. Apartment complex is exactly the same way. It's just, I don't like apartment complexes because it has sheetrock and plumbing and carpet and
Uh-huh.
dogs. And, you know,
Right.
my storages don't have any of that. So, the other thing, I'll tell you a unique dynamic. The other difference between collecting rent on a storage and collecting rent on a house is all the years that I've been kicking, you know, having to evict people out, kicking people out.
Yeah.
No one's cried when I kicked them out of the house. As a matter of fact, some of them have spit on me, shot me the bird, and told me what they thought of me and left. In the mini storage business, people beg for you to give them time to work something out, to do something, because the things that are in that mini storages are irreplaceable. They're not worth anything to me. That Marine uniform from Okinawa is not worth anything to me.
Yeah.
That wedding dress is worth nothing to me.
Right.
But to them, it's everything. Those pictures of those kids, certainly not worth anything to me.
Right.
You know? So there's a whole different set of things.
Yeah. How many of those units do you own?
I own about 1,000 units in 16 locations.
In 16 locations?
Yeah, around Canyon Lake.
Is your intention to continue buying storage units?
Yeah, or improving the ones that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably here for a little while I got to improve the ones I have. They're about half boat storages and half mini storages. So the world changes and boats change and things change, and I got some places that some of my units are obsolete and I need to go back and resize them.
Just point of clarification, you kept saying flipping houses, flipping houses. When you say flip house, you're talking about buying it, maybe rehabbing it, and owner financing it, not necessarily selling it, or do you do that as well? Would you sell it?
Well, I always clear out if I can. I always cash out if I can. Always.
If you can cash out, you'll cash out.
Yeah, because it's been so hard to cash out that you never pass up a chance to cash out of any house.
Right.
If it's your best house or your worst house or your medium house, if someone wants to cash you out and it looks good, take the cash because it's been so difficult to make that whole circle. You know, someone wants to buy the note, sell the note. Because I'm not worried about finding another one to replace it.
Right.
I'm not worried about creating another. If someone wants to buy 50 of my notes today, I'll sell them all because I'll just go back out and I can recreate notes. I mean, that's what I did for 16 years. I created paper. I created notes out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can cash out, cash out.
So given your number one priority would be to sell and cash out, would you ever weigh because when you cash out, you get the cash. It's nice to have the cash, but you're not getting the passive income. Does that play into your thought process at all? Or would you ever rather get a stream of income?
I just pay off the debt. It's like this. You got 200 widgets bringing in a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
But you got 50% debt on those widgets. So you got 200 widgets and you got 50% debt.
Uh-huh.
I would rather have 100 widgets and no debt.
Mm-hmm.
Or 75 widgets and no debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same amount of money coming in, more or less, but you just cut your workload down by 130 widgets, 125 widgets,
Mm-hmm.
and your liabilities and the phone, the things that happen every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I used that in the beginning, and like I said, I don't like the leverage over like 50%. If I'm going to buy a house, I don't want to be in over 50% of the value. So I use leverage because you have to have the power of leverage to grow quickly, right? Because if you try to grow cash on cash on cash, you're just going to be a long, slow day, and
Sure.
you'll die before you get there.
Right.
Maybe. But if you use leverage, you can get there. Just
Yeah.
don't use too much. And then once you get built up and you have a good cash flow, and then things start to mature a little bit, balances get paid down, values go up, there's some disparity.
Uh-huh.
Try to get someone to cash you out of half of them to pay off the other half would be the perfect scenario. It's really not sell half to pay off the other half. It's more like sell a little more than half to pay off what's left over, and you're left with a little bit less than half.
Right.
But it's free and clear. And then what happens is it frees up all my private lenders. They all have their money again.
And you can
I can go back out
do
again
it
if I
again.
want or not.
Right.
Or all I'd like to say is I can go out with my newfound wisdom in the new marketplace, because today the marketplace is new.
Mhm.
It's new. It's different than it was 3 years ago. And then that day it was different than it was 3 years before that. The market's always getting anew.
Mm-hmm.
So you take your newfound knowledge of what you know of the new market and decide whether you want to go redo it again or not.
Yeah.
If I had a chance to do it all over again, I'd make a lot more money than I did the first time.
Sure. Well, you bring up the fact that the market is changing, and what you've been doing for years, owner financing, is becoming more and more into fashion now. A lot of people, we've been getting a lot more questions about it, and my portfolio is 90% rentals. We have a few owner finance, but more and more people are starting to think about owner finance because it's getting harder for people to buy homes, or it's been hard for the last few years. So I'm just curious, if I'm asking you what the pros and cons are of renting versus owner financing, we know some of the pros, but what are some of the cons of owner financing versus
Well, the con would be that you don't get any appreciation.
You don't get the appreciation.
Right, but in this town, not really known for appreciation,
Sure.
is it?
No, not this town.
In California, you're 25-30% a year appreciation. I can understand being a landlord for that.
Yeah.
For 3 years, your house is doubled.
I see.
But in San Antonio, you're lucky if you got 3% on the south side, east side, and west side,
Yeah.
and 8% out in Stone Oak. Maybe
Yeah.
on the biggest year ever, we had 15% when things were just getting out of control.
Right.
Before the bubble popped.
Right.
And I would have to research that 15% because I think the highest might have been 8. So when I go to buy a house, I don't even figure appreciation into the formula. There's not even a blank for it on the page.
Because you're buying with profit built in, yeah.
Yeah. So if there is some appreciation, it just goes to the good.
Sure.
Great deal, a little extra push. But so that's one of the reasons I didn't want to be a landlord in San Antonio, Texas. There's no appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, houses. I wrote that book talking about the years from 1996 to around 2002, 2003. It's 2011, we're right back at the same prices that we were. I'm buying houses for the same prices that I was buying them for back then. And if a landlord, I'd have wasted 10 years of fixing people's toilets.
Right. If you're paying on appreciation. What about, how long are most of your notes?
As short as I can make them.
You'd prefer a shorter note to a longer note?
Absolutely.
Well, what about the
They're
idea
more
that,
valuable.
what about the idea that the asset goes away if you're doing a 10-year note versus 30-year note? After 10 years, now that asset's gone.
Well, if take some of the, when you got your principal back, you should have bought another one if you wanted another one.
Mm-hmm.
As the principal comes in, if you're worried about losing that asset, then put your principal over in the piggy bank and put it back out.
Okay.
So now it goes on forever.
Because I think in the rental mindset, a lot of people think, well, I'm going to have this asset forever. It's going to pay down. It's just always going to be paying me money.
Well, see, I got ADHD and everything else. I don't want an asset forever. I don't even want to own it for 4 days. I want it to come and I want it to go away. I want to do another one. I want to see something different. I don't want to see something for the rest of my life. I really don't.
Yeah.
I understand the theory.
Yeah.
But to me, if you want an income to keep going, then just go owner finance some more houses.
Right.
All the time that you spend landlording, I just go find another house. I talk about how to buy my notes. My notes. This is my notes. These are the ones I have. This is the pluses of this one. This one has a $40,000 balance and it's on the tax rolls at $90,000, and it's at 11% interest. The worst thing will happen is you make 11%. The best thing will ever happen is they quit paying and you'll resize this note to $90,000. That would be the best thing. And you buy your notes from me, you pay, I don't discount, because it comes with me. Because if he ever quits paying, I'll go resize it for you.
So you've got some follow-up in there as well.
Well, yeah, because why? Because if a guy goes to the dinner table and says, look, I bought a note from this guy, and it paid for a year, and then the guy quit paying. So I called up the jerk that sold me the note.
Right.
And he went out, and he reloaded it for 2 times more than what I had in it. And now I get a check for this much, and I'm making 23% ROI on my money. I love this guy. So I look at a chance when a note goes bad for me to sew up this investor forever.
Right.
He's mine. He ain't going anywhere.
Sure.
He'll tell his friends about me. He'll be my reference. I can't wait for his note to go bad because when I fix it, he's mine.
Explain to me resize. What does that mean?
Resize. The guy that I sold a note, I sell a note to you.
Yeah.
And so you're collecting, $500, $495 on $50,000. And there's 300 months left. There's 20 months left. I'm sorry. 240 months left. 20 years. So I sold you a note. The balance is $50,000. The payment's $495. And you got 20 years left that the guy owes you the money. Now he stops paying. The house is worth $90. The balance was $50. That's what you bought. You bought the balance that he owed me. But the house is worth $90. And he stops paying me. I'm going to go reload that house to someone $90,000 with $5,000 down. Now you're going to have a note for $85 at 10%. Look what happened to your position. I resized it. I like to call it supersize, but sometimes resizing can go the other way. But what I make sure that I don't sell you a note. I make sure that when I sell you a note, that if it has to be resized, I'm going to be the hero.
Yeah.
Or I won't sell you the note. You follow me? I never sell you a note that
Could go the other way.
could go the other way.
How do you ensure that though?
The only thing I can't guarantee is that they're not going to burn the house down while they're in it.
Right.
Or that they're not going to strip every piece of copper out on their way out. I can't guarantee that.
Sure.
But I can guarantee you what the house is worth and what you have in it on the day that you do the deal. And that's what I have to go by. I need to make sure there's at least a $20,000 spread so I can at least pick up 10 or 15 grand on top.
How do you get that spread? Is that over time then paying it down? Or are you selling it at a discount? Or
If I sell a house, if I sell a note that's equal to the value of the house or right around the value of the house, then I got a discount.
You have to discount it to the end buyer.
To the note buyer.
I see.
But a little bit, 10 or 12 grand.
Yeah.
But if I got a note that the balance is 50 and its CMA, its current market value is 75, I don't need to discount that note. Especially if the face interest rate is 10, 11, 11.5, 12%.
I see.
And that's because it comes with me. It's just notes in this town that I originated, that you're buying, and we have a relationship, and if that note goes bad, you call me.
Right.
Because I'm the best at doing that.
Right.
Or one of the best. I mean, not the best. There's always someone better, right? There's always someone better.
The best I know.
Well, there's always someone better, no matter what you say. But there's always someone better. But I'm really, 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 really good at it, and you're not going to have any problems. Just if it goes bad, call me. Now, what I try to do is I try to set, if you buy my note, I try to set you up with a servicing company, preferably someone I know. Like I know a guy here in town. I try to set them all up with him. So he doesn't even call them when there's a problem. He just calls me, and I go out there and go, "What's going on? Do you need to get out? Do you need to get in? Do you want to?" And then I call the guy and break the news to him and explain what we're going to do instead of someone just going, "Hey, they just left. Your note buyer didn't pay. See you later." And then my note buyer's sitting there in a panic at the kitchen table with his wife. I go out. Instead of having that happen, I just have the servicing agent call me if there's troubles. I go find out how bad the troubles are. If the troubles are going to go all the way to the end and we're going to have to foreclose, I'm prepared for that too. I try to make some kind of deal with that tenant to pay them to get out so that there's no, you know that rent game, right?
Sure.
And then to make the transition fast and clean. And then, because my goal is to resize that note and to put my note buyer in a better position after the foreclosure than he was before.
Right.
And if I do that, I walk on water.
Yeah.
And I love to walk on water in front of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a little bit of work. But see, you'd also think, well, that's a lot of work and a lot of commitment. See, but I have a sales crew. I have a work crew. I don't do anything. I don't even put the lockbox on there. I don't put the sign in the front of the yard. I just add that house to the amount of houses I'm trying to sell this week. And it just goes down the stream like every other boat I got on the stream.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea what your total count is right now in terms of single-family houses bought and sold?
Well over 1,100.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, keep in mind, I didn't own 100% of those 1,100 houses. Like I said, you know, the first 450, I owned like 25% of a lot of them, most of them.
And the rest were owned by partners?
Well, I was in partners with someone, like you're in partners with
Yeah.
someone. And then our deal was, we would partner
Partner with
50-50
somebody
with
else.
anyone who bought a deal that was 50 cents on the dollar.
Sure.
Because we had become experts at raising the money. We had the money. What's the problem every investor has? He doesn't have the money.
Yeah.
We had the money. We didn't have enough deals. As a matter of fact, the person who loaned me the money, I asked him, how many houses can we buy? He said, you can't buy enough. So I took that as a personal challenge.
Sure.
And I put the word out on the street that if you brought a deal 50 cents on the dollar, I'd partner with you.
So you partner with the guys that are bringing the deals.
Yeah.
They bring the deals.
Then me and my partner were 50%, and they were 50%.
Uh-huh.
So I was effectively 25%.
And you did the deal. You did the management, the rehab, the sales.
I did everything, which
Right.
was a big mistake. It should have been more like 60-40 because I had all the overhead.
Right.
It should have been 60-40. And later it was. That kind of upset some of the people that had been 50-50, but you know, I had the secretary and the air conditioning bill and the
Yeah.
insurance. And the other thing was, the house only went in the name of the person who put up the money.
Mm.
The other partner was a handshake, always.
Right.
Because couldn't afford to have the money that was being put up, which was borrowed from some private person, get encumbered because some partner gone a little wacky, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How soon in the game did you start using private money?
Pretty early.
Pretty early.
Well, I started out on credit cards.
Yeah.
In the day, you could get all the credit cards you wanted.
Right.
And if you had good credit, you just got their maximum everything. And they didn't measure how many credit cards you could go get the money from and put on your kitchen table and go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that really quick, and I got like 45 credit cards, and I would buy like, you know, here's 10, I need 10 grand on this card, and 10 grand on this card, and that'll buy the house on
You went
California.
and got the cash.
And then here's 10 grand on this card I need for the rehab.
Wow.
And so when the closing happened, and I sold the house for 50,000 with the note sale, or whatever the cash, like say like I was going to clear 50,000 when the deal closed. Oh, the whole 50,000 went to my bank account because the 30,000 on the credit cards was nowhere to be seen on the paperwork.
Right.
It was unsecured loan.
Yeah.
So the trick was you had to take those credit cards inside the folder, and if you used a credit card for a house, even for $1 on that credit card, then it went in that folder because the only thing that would ever be put on that card would be for that house. So that when the deal closed, all you had to do was say, honey, open up the folder, call the 3 or 4 or 5 credit card, find out what the balances are, send the money to them, and whatever's left over out of that 50 is what we made.
Right.
And we always closed out every time.
So you didn't have a bunch of outstanding hanging debt?
No, we always closed out. Some people
Right.
said, well, why did you close it out just so you had to go get it back? I said, because everything has to have a beginning and an end. When I wrote that check to those credit card companies, that was the end of that deal. The book was closed, no doubt about it. That deal was started and it ended and it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Everything had to have an end.
Mm-hmm.
So many people get in trouble because they keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and then they can't retrace their steps.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think I've been guilty of that.
Yeah, you've got to end.
Right.
The one secret on the credit card was if you went down and you just went to the bank with a credit card and you just said, here's my card, I want 10 grand, they would charge you like 2% of what you borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you called the credit card companies and asked for the checks, it'd be like $25 no matter what you wrote the check for.
Okay.
You know, you write the check for 10 grand, 2%,
Right.
a whole different number than $25 on 10 grand.
Mm-hmm. How did you get into your first private money deal?
Well, the first one started with some family. My dad,
Mm-hmm.
small. I almost lost that money. And I wrote about getting that money back in a chapter called Conning the Cons, where I conned a person I conned him back. He conned me, and then I conned him back to get my money back. Recently sentenced to prison here in the last few days. But he's been hurting people for years and years and years, which is what gives this business a bad name.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how they're still here.
Right.
And there's still more of them out there that I know that are doing it, and they're killing us. These legislators want to pass all these laws because the only thing we hear about is these scoundrels that are screwing everybody. You don't hear about the millions of people that got houses that are living happily ever after because of people like you and me.
Right.
You never hear about that. No one writes a letter to their congressman about that.
Right.
They only write a letter when, you know, they bought a house and the title wasn't clear and they paid for it for 10 years.
Right.
That's the only time you hear about it.
Yeah.
So I started out kind of with that, family, credit cards, but then we started pursuing finding people. And the first person I got is the man who said, you know, he courted us for many weeks. They got to be kind of like, man, this is taking a long time. And he wanted to see us in a lot of different situations. We were young, I say young, 32, 30, whatever. Is that young? Seems young to me.
It's all relative.
Yeah. And so I guess he knew the business model would work, and he knew the business model, but he wanted to know who we were, me and my partner.
Sure.
He wanted to know who we were. You know, how we were when we had a little liquor, how we were when we were at a bar, how we were at home. He wanted to see our house. He wanted to meet our wives. He wanted to know what we drove.
Huh.
He asked me, you know, how come you don't drive a Mercedes or something? You have the money. You know, he wanted to know what I was going to do with that money.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, I had a 10-year-old truck at the time. My truck right now has 413,000 miles on it. It's a 2001.
Wow.
You know, I don't like to spend my money that way. I like to spend
Yeah.
my money. So once he got satisfied that we had our heads screwed on straight, we weren't running off to get into cocaine, and we weren't going to, you know, get all sideways with a bunch of women and wreck our marriages and go downhill, and we weren't going to go buy Ferraris and do a bunch of, that we were really just what we were trying to do is we were trying to become financially free, and we meant it.
Right.
He just wasn't convinced yet, that we were too young and it didn't seem logical.
Yeah.
And once he was convinced, that's when I asked him, I said, well, he said, okay, we'll do the deal. And I said, okay, well, how much do you want to get out? How many houses do you want us to buy? What's the number? He said, you can't do enough. I'm still partners with him right now downstairs in the mobile home business.
Wow.
He's the guy that I bought all the mobile homes with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have the loan business, the house flipping business, the mini storage business, and the mobile home business all right here. And then I got a couple of small commercial buildings, which honestly is entirely too much. Another reason why I sell off half, pay off the other half. Time to cut back. I'm getting a little bit tired. You know, I'm not 28, 29, 30, 32 anymore. I'm not even close. So I'm 50. So it's time to slow down, smell some roses, and enjoy a little bit of it. I've been really guilty of not enjoying it as much, taking the time. Not taking the time. I'm getting better. I'm under heavy therapy, but I'm getting better.
Curious about your finding deals. When you find deals, is it through marketing? Is it through, one time you had people bring you deals? How do you find deals now?
They started bringing me deals back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and it never stopped. I mean, when we did all those deals with all those people, some of those partners were good, some of them were bad, some of them stole from me, some of them, I don't know. But the good ones, and the reputation got there because I don't think there's anyone out there that I know of that is saying or has said or can say that I didn't treat them square. They even wrote checks sometimes when I didn't want to. But I knew my reputation was more important than the $1,000 or the $1,500 that we were arguing about. You know, all I just I write the check. There you go, and then I don't have to go do another deal with this person anymore. You know what I mean? That's the one neat thing about houses. You can get in with someone, you can be a partner. If it's fun, you can do it again. If you don't like it, you sell the house, you just don't do it again.
Right.
And I never had to say I don't like you, or I do like you, or I don't, or we got a problem.
Right.
What I mostly did was I didn't say anything. And then at the end of the day, I looked in the mirror and go, do I want to do business with this guy again or not? And if the answer was yes, I did. And if the answer was no, I didn't.
Yep.
But I didn't get in an argument about it. Ever. I say ever. 99.99999% of the time.
Right.
And so people know that they can bring houses to me.
That's a higher lead source than your paid advertising or your signage?
I don't pay any advertising.
Really? You don't do paid advertising? Huh.
No, the sign brings me a house. The house I'm going to go show you came from that sign.
The big one out in front?
Yeah. That sign brings about 2 houses a year.
Okay.
Your shirt will bring about one house every 2 years. Your car signs will bring you maybe one house a year.
Yeah.
Your business cards, maybe one house a year.
Yeah.
I mean, strictly from the card. So you have to, like when you're regressive and you're trying to find these, you got to do a lot of things that don't cost you a lot of money. That are like a shirt. You buy it one time, you can wear it. You can wear it 5 days a week or whatever. At least you can pick the logo and have it on enough shirts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the best place to put a logo is right there. We're a nation of lines. So put your logo in the back, because we're constantly waiting. People don't really gonna stare at your chest, especially if you're a woman. You know, the best place to put your logo is if you've got long hair or sleeve. I'd like to put it like here.
Yeah.
But a man with short hair is to put it right in the middle of their shoulder blades at the top, because someone's standing behind you almost all the time.
Right. If you were dropped into this city and didn't know anybody and you had no money, no credit, what would you do to get started in real estate investing?
Knowing what I know right now?
Yeah, knowing what you know now.
Oh, I tell this, I do this with my wife all the time. My wife used to worry, and I said, look, if I keep my reputation straight, then you can drop me off in the middle of downtown in my underwear, and I'll have a deal going within 5 days, and I'll have money coming in, maybe on the 6th day, but I'll make a strike, and we'll all get clothes and fed, and we'll have a place to stay within 30 days. I'll have it all hammered out.
Yeah.
I might have to stay at the shelter for the 30 days, but after that.
Right.
What would I do? I would just, do I have a car?
You got a car, yeah.
I got a car, or am I just naked?
Well, I'm going to give you a car and I'm going to give you a shirt and pants.
Okay. Maybe $20?
$20, that'll work, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna take 2 whole days, and I'm gonna drive up and down the streets, and I'm gonna write down every vacant house to deal, and I'm gonna find out who owns one of them, and I'm gonna strike a deal right now, and then I'm gonna go sell it to you.
So, okay, you're going to find some prospects through driving.
I'm gonna find vacant houses.
You do a little research for the owner with the county records.
No, I'm gonna talk to the neighbors.
Talk to neighbors.
I don't have time, and I don't have the money, and I don't have the gas. So every time I see a house, I'm gonna talk to the neighbors till I find the guy. And then whoever I find the fastest is who I'm gonna work with to make the deal.
And you've got fairly good likelihood that these people are willing to sell under certain terms.
Yeah, pretty much, because they don't care about it, obviously.
Okay. And then you're gonna almost simultaneously find the buyer of that deal.
Through the neighbors, hopefully. And do I have a cell phone?
Sure.
Okay. Because if I can't find him through the neighbors, then I'm going to put a for sale sign in his yard with my phone number, and the owner's going to call me.
Wow.
I'm just going to buy a couple pieces of plastic. I'll probably go, since I don't have any money, I'll go rip down one of these politician signs, and I'll flip it over, and I'll write for sale, and I'll put my phone number, and then I'm going to put it in the front yard of that house, and the owner's going to call me, I guarantee you.
That's amazing.
There's more to it, but you got to buy the book.
But you gotta buy the book.
Because that'll just piss everyone off.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the book. So you mentioned in the book that there's a lot of books that inspired you. You mentioned Think and Grow Rich, No Money Down. But you also mentioned that sometimes it took a long time for those concepts to solidify. But was your passion for reading, did you always want to write something, or what?
I was not a reader, and I hated reading.
Okay.
But what happened was I got really in a funk. Life after high school was beating me up pretty good, and I wasn't being successful. And I enjoyed a lot of success in high school.
Yeah.
I played football, and I had a lot of friends, and everything went my way in high school. And then it wasn't going so well 3 or 4 years out of high school, and I wasn't college material, so I got in a funk, and through a chain of events, my mom had picked up some books at garage sales and stuff, and she was saying, you need to read these books, you need to read these books. She knew about books, and I didn't know about books. She knew about the power of a book, and I just, at 23, 24, I hadn't discovered the power of a book,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And she was begging me to read this book, and so finally I said, okay, I will humor her, and I will read. She's just like, just read 10 pages a day. So I said, okay, I'm just going to read 10 pages on it. So when she asked me tomorrow, I can say, yes, I read the 10 pages, and it didn't change my world. And I started reading 10 pages of the book, and it didn't stop at 10 pages. I was at like 15, 20. And this book was telling me I could, and I realized right off the bat that while I was listening to this person tell me that I could, or how it would work, or how I might be successful, that was really changing my whole psyche. And I was going from down here to almost being excited in a matter of pages. And I finished that book in short order and kind of got readjusted. I mean, everything got kind of dialed in again, and I got my enthusiasm back. And that book was Think and Grow Rich, and my mother had no idea what it was. She had no idea that it was the book it was. You know.
And she just picked it up at a garage sale or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She read the back of it, and she thought, my son needs to read this.
Yeah.
It was $1, and she could afford it.
Yeah.
But then ever since that, I knew the power of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what it could do to me. I knew what it could do for me. I knew how it could change the way I felt. I could go from being depressed to being excited like in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't make any sense to me. But I liked it. So I kept wanting to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And, what happens is you have to be at the right time in your life for the right sentence or the right idea to come across.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, when you're at the right time, what is it? The teacher will appear when the student's ready. Or
Yep.
Something like that. When the right time happens and the right book comes on, which is one of the reasons why I almost quit writing my book. I almost stopped because I thought, who cares about Mitch Stephen? He's not famous. No one cares. I mean, who's going to read my book? Why am I writing a book? No one cares. And then this one professor who said he would help me when I got going. I said, look, I'm going to quit. I'm going to finish because no one cares about this. This is ridiculous. He says, that's not true. He says, you might not be famous, but you have a unique voice. You have a unique set of experiences. And you, just by being a human, have a unique way that you're going to put it. And if that relates to one person and it changes them, then you've got a good book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sure I could change one person. I'm sure that one person would agree with me or would understand.
Right.
It could turn out to be a lot more than that.
So how has the experience been since the book's been out? The feedback you've gotten from it?
Well, first of all, the book is not about what I thought it was about. What I thought it was about when I was writing, it's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that through the reviews, people coming back and telling me. And I understand now what I wrote and why they feel that way. But what I really didn't understand is I raised $1.7 million worth of private money since that book came out from people I was acquainted with or didn't know. But, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because there's people that thought we knew each other, but
Right.
we didn't know each other.
Yeah. No.
I didn't know they had any money, and they didn't know I knew how to do what I know how to do. I mean, they knew I bought some houses, but they had no idea.
That's interesting. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can see all that.
And one of the big eye-openers is the people that I didn't think had any money, really, they didn't have any money, but their IRA was jam-packed.
Sure.
They just couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's driving this old beat-up car, and he can't make his rent payment. He's late on everything, and you think, well, they got that many money. He's been working for UPS for 25 years. Wake up, Mitch. He's got some money somewhere.
Yeah.
So I was judging all these books by these covers, and so I started looking like, now I don't, when there's things that ring bells with me now. Someone drives an Escalade, doesn't ring a bell nearly as loud to me as says, hey, I've been with AT&T for 25 years.
Yeah.
That's like, bing, that guy's got a retirement plan. I know he's got it, an IRA or a 401k. I know he does. And I know he's lost 25 or 30% of it in the stock market. I know that for sure, probably. There's like an 80% chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I can probably get 10 minutes with this guy to show him what I'm doing. And maybe he'll be my next investor.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it. I'm getting an inheritance. Or so-and-so's, parents died. Well, what did they do? Well, he owns several ranches around South Texas and stuff. I said, really? You need to talk with this person. I just hear things different. And then you don't talk anybody into anything. You just show them your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Either they get it or they don't, because it's really not complicated. It's very simple. They're in or they're out.
Yeah.
What breaks my heart is the amount of people that I know that have inherited $250,000, $350,000, $450,000. I talk to them about preserving that and living off of what it makes, and this is what we could do and all that. And then they didn't do it, and then within 2 years they have no money at all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I've seen that.
They have a nice car that's 2 years old.
That's worth half of what they bought for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could have made $2,000, $3,000 a month that they never had the luxury of having.
Right.
But they just couldn't. I call it pent-up demand. They just couldn't contain their pent-up demand.
Yeah.
Now the theory is like they get 200, 300,000, whatever. Here, take 20,000, go have a good time. Let's put the rest away.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit of something because they just can't stand to watch that money sit over.
Yeah.
I said, you want a new car at $3,000 a month? You'll have the new car in a year,
Sure.
a year and a half. What the hell?
Just wait a little bit.
Slow down,
Yeah.
and you'll still have your money coming in.
Yeah.
You'll have the car, and you'll still have $3,000 a month coming in. But they can't wait the year.
Right. That's that financial thermostat inside of you. They say if it's set at a certain level, it'll always be set at that level. If you're given that money, you're going to find a way to spend it. You got to be able to dial that thermostat up and be able to wait a little bit longer before you can start absorbing it.
It's funny that you said that because my wife used to ask me, like, we'd make this money and we'd have $100,000 in the bank, or we'd have, real decent chunks of money in the bank from time to time. And then, like, within a week, I have it out, building some storages. I bought these storages over here. She's like, man, how come you never let us have any money? How come you always have to spend it? I said, to me, money in the bank is waiting for an excuse to dissipate. If I put it into a storage unit, I can't dissipate it overnight. I can't just reach over there and grab it at the first inkling of a hard time.
It's a firewall.
Yeah, it puts kind of a firewall there. I can get to it eventually, but it's not fast. And so I have to learn to deal with the money as it comes in from the storages.
Right.
So I've always taken my chunks, got it out of my sight as fast as I can into concrete and metal and whatever it is I put in, where it's producing an income. And then I just learned to live within that means. And of course, one little thing at a time, it keeps kind of going up,
Yeah. You talk a lot about, one thing that's unique about your book is that you focus a lot on the struggles, and I've related a lot to that. Out of high school, you were an entrepreneur. You talked about the striping business, and I've had a candy business and a T-shirt business, and I've done all that and felt some of that pain. So I really related to that. At what point did you finally feel like you were onto something with real estate? That it was different than the struggles in the past? Was it at the point where you started the owner finance, or was it before that at some point?
No, it was really at the point of the owner finance when I understood that, because here was the problem. It was the same problem I'm going to guess, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I bet you I'm right. Same problem with the gumball machine and the same problem with the shirt. It was probably the shirts more than the gumballs. Mm-hmm. My problem was getting paid. I would do the service, I would perform the thing, and people would not pay me. Probably in the gumball machine, maybe they stole your machines, or they did, what I mean? They did things to you that weren't, they weren't in the business plan. Entrepreneur Magazine didn't tell you about that, about the gumball machine business, right? So when I had the striping business, I did all the work and I couldn't get paid, and I couldn't get my stripes back.
Right.
What I liked about real estate was you pay me or you don't pay me. If I play within a certain amount of rules, it's all going to be all right. I'm certainly not going to go to zero. But I tell you what, when I was a 21-year-old kid, I sold my drum set for $750. I bought that striping machine at Perry Schenkel because Entrepreneur Magazine said I could make some money. And I grossed, in my third year, I grossed $1.7 million putting lines on parking lots. And I had paid all my bills, and I paid monthly, and I kept a job at the bar 2 nights a week just so I knew I would have money in my pocket for gas and paint.
Right.
And at 21 years old, in 1983. You got to remember the value of money from now.
Sure.
I was 21, 22, 1983, and I was owed $350,000 in accounts receivable. Didn't owe anyone a dime, and I couldn't get my money from some of the wealthiest men in this town.
Yeah.
That are still wealthy in this town. They filed bankruptcy when the recession hit. And they wanted to offer me 10 cents on the dollar. It wasn't even worth it for me to go get my lawyer to go down there to get my 10 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
And so then I looked at real estate and said, okay, I like this game.
Yeah.
They're going to give me some money, and then if they don't perform, I get the thing back, and I can go back.
Sure.
So if the secret in the sauce there is if you stay within certain parameters, it'll all be okay.
So what's next? What's in the future?
I'm selling a lot of notes, taking care of my investor guys, expanding my storage business, and I'm actually buying and selling houses now to reduce my debt. I mean, just to pay everything off. Things are starting to cut back because I have a lot of stuff right now, and I'd like to have half as much stuff and be free and clear. So that's kind of where I'm headed. If I had it to do over again, I would have started building my free and clear stuff 10 years ago, 8 years ago.
We dropped you off with a car, a cell phone, and $20. You did your first deal, and let's say now you made, I don't know, 10 grand off of that. Well, how much do you think you made on that first deal?
6 to 10.
6 to 10. So what? Now take us through the first, I don't know, $100,000. What's the strategy after that?
Well, you got to do a couple more of those.
Okay.
Get some allegiances, find out who you want to partner with, and you got to make sure they have the same need that you have. Like you got to have cash, and you got to find someone who needs cash too. You can't. I made that mistake one time. I needed the cash now, and they never wanted to sell anything because they wanted the cash flow. And that relationship didn't work very good. Not because they were bad guys or anything. They wanted to buy a house and hold it forever, and I needed to sell the notes so I could make 10 or 15 grand every now and then.
Right.
Because I didn't have enough cash flow coming in at the moment.
Yeah.
The first 100 grand, I'm gonna do that, but I have to find some private money because ultimately I've always been a worker. I will do the work. I'm not afraid of the work. I'm not afraid to go out and find a house. I can go find a house in a minute. I can go find people and do everything. So I don't have the need for partners like I did when I was trying to learn.
Right.
Most of the time I wanted partners because I wanted to learn and I didn't have any money. I'm not so needy in the educational department anymore, and money comes a whole lot easier to me than it used to be. So the whole crux of the whole business is private money. To me, it's the whole thing. It's private money is everything. You want to become an expert at something? Then go take a 2-week vacation and study how to find private money. You want to concentrate on something that will really help your business? Figure out how you're going to find private money. Take us
through a deal done with one single family house done with private money and what the numbers might look like.
Okay. Buy a house for $23,000. I borrowed $25,000 because I pay myself $2,000 to buy a house.
Okay, so you're starting out ahead.
Yeah. How much money do I have in it now?
-2. Yeah.
Yeah. I made $2,000 to buy this house. So now I got $25,000 in the house. I want my note to be double what I have in it. So if I don't do any work to it, then I stay at $25,000. So I got to put this house up for sale for $55,000, owner financed, so that after a down payment, I still have $50,000 or more that's owed to me. Now I'm borrowing the money at 8%, so I'm paying 8% on $25,000. When I sell the house, let's say I sell the house for $55,000, I get $3,000 down. By the way, that's my money too.
Okay.
So now I made $5,000.
Yeah.
I made $2,000 when I bought it. I made whatever the down payment was when I sold it.
Yeah.
And I got a note for $52,000 at 10, 10 and a half, 11. So I'm making, let's just say 10%. I sold it at 10%, $52,000 at 10% for 15 years. I'm making 2% on the $25,000 that's not mine. The difference between the 8 that I owe and the 10 that I'm collecting.
Okay.
And I'm making 10% on the other $27,000.
Yeah.
And I got paid $5,000 to make that happen.
Wow.
So if I can do that 3 times a month, I make, and let's say the spread, the difference what they owe me and what I owe my investor is, just call it $250, which is probably low, but medium.
Yeah.
So I got paid $5,000 to create myself a $250,000 positive income. If I do that 3 times a month, then I made $15,000 to create myself a $750 positive. Because what I tried to do was, I've been in the business like the gumball business, and I've been in the business like the shirt business, and I was in the striping business, and what happens is you get on this treadmill and you can't get off of it. I wanted a job that if I was really good at it, I worked myself out of the friggin' job.
Right.
I wanted a business model so that if I really did my job well, my job I didn't have to have it anymore, because the residual of me doing my job well was passive income. So if I did my job really well, I would build up all this passive income, and then if I didn't like it anymore, I didn't want to do it anymore, I just wanted to take long vacations or whatever I wanted to do, I could stop because I did my job really well. And what my job was to create passive income. So that's the other turning point and why I picked that business model, because I finally found a business model to where it was easy enough to get out of, just Sell the house one at a time, or sell them in blocks or whatever. It's easy enough to get out. Hard to sell a business sometimes, especially if it's not making money. And you're stuck with still the overhead, the employees, and the rent and all that. You can get trapped in that. I didn't want to get trapped anymore.
The private note that you have on that, how long is it? What's your term on that?
Well, I like to borrow money for at least, I mean, when I borrow from the private people, I tell them I need 5 years with it. Because none of my houses go over 5 years. I mean, by the time someone's paid me for 5 years, I could have sold the note
You could have sold the note, right?
to somebody, you know? Or I could have got them a new loan. And the balance is going down, and the value is supposedly going up, and there's this disparity.
Yeah.
But here's what you learn from like my average investors between 60 and 85 years old. He don't want his money back.
No, they want
They're living off of it.
income stream, sure.
You know, we talked about it with Raymond, right? They've lost half of it in the stock market, and now they've got a half left, which, see, this is what they used to tell me. I'm going to give you half of what I got. So I get half of what they got. Now they tell me you got everything I got because they lost the other half in the stock market.
Right.
And so the pressure is really on me to keep their money out. Because if I sell off this stuff and give it back to them, the first thing they want to do, and this is what they'll try to do. No, just keep it in your account. I don't want it. Just keep sending me the payment. Go do something with it. And I say, every deal has to have its end. You've got to go cash this check.
Right.
Put it in the account. I'll go find another deal. But this deal has ended.
Yeah.
And so if you get to court or the heirs come in after he's been deceased or whatever, there's a beginning and there's a check where he hammered it and he got paid back the exact number that he loaned.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Done. And so what you find out is that most of your investors don't want their money back.
Mm-hmm.
At least mine. I guess maybe it's because of their demographic or their age. They don't want their money back.
Yeah.
They're living off of it.
Right.
Now, right now I write checks to 7 widows. I've been doing it 16 years. In the 16-year period, the men that I started with, 7 of them have passed away. So, this is always tricky. When the heirs come in, the kids, they all want to know what mama's money's in.
Right.
And then you got to go try to explain it to them. And there's 2 kinds of people. There's the one that just wants to know, and it's okay, and okay, she's okay.
Right.
The other one's like, no, we need this money out because I need some money.
Right. Right.
And so consequently, I won't talk to any of the heirs unless the widow says it. Because they call me. They'll always call me within a month or so. And then I just say, look, I'm working for your mom now, so you need to get her to call me. And if you want to if she wants you to be part of that meeting, that's fine. You know? And then several times they wanted her to cash out, or they felt like she needed to divest of this, and I talked to the widow. She goes, no, man. She goes, are you still going to send me a check every month? I said, absolutely. She goes, that's what I want. Just send me my check.
Yeah. For the person that's off the street trying to get started in this model, what would be their biggest challenge?
Finding private money.
Finding the private money? Okay. And then after they found the private money...
If you don't have private money, then you probably have to partner with someone who has the money, which means you're giving up 50%, which is not bad.
Right, get you in the game.
Yeah, get you. Yeah, I did it. I can't tell you how many deals I did.
Yeah.
I gave up half or 75% of. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But you know, it just means you have to do a few more deals.
Yeah.
You know, I was really, really, really lucky. And hear this: you guys that are out there that are broke, that don't make a lot of money, you're lucky, because the ones that are struggling in this business, the ones that make a lot of money, and they're trying to quit their job. I only made like $28,000 a year. I did 2 deals. I had a year paid for.
Sure.
The job I had wasn't irreplaceable. I could like get another one tomorrow.
Right.
So when I sold my first 2 deals, I put the money in the bank. When I had, I think I made $28,000 a year. I had $32,000 in the bank. I said, I'm going to see what Mitch Stephen can do. 12 months.
In a year, yeah, nice.
12 months in a year, with nothing to do with this. And I did 45 houses that year, and then the second year I did 65, and the third year I did 150.
Wow. Something else I noticed is that you said you kept your bartending job for a while. I've noticed a lot of people that have been successful have been in the service industry. Did you find any benefit from having worked in a restaurant?
Yeah, I met a ton of people, and that's where I got all my business.
Really?
That's where I met all the people.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, there's been a lot of network marketing going on, you know? People say, I'm going to do this network marketing, I'm going to quit the job. I said, no. Keep the job. That's where you find the people for the network marketing. Well, it's the same thing for a service business. That's where I found everybody who owned the parking lots. That's where I found the people.
Wow.
Who do you know?
Yeah.
Who's the manager over there? Hey, you work over there? Hey, who owns that parking lot?
Yeah. What skill sets, particularly the skill sets that are acquirable, have served you the most in your success?
Trying to use your day the most efficiently you can. You know, figure out where you're burning the hours, what hours you have available, how can I make the most out of these things? And then put it down and go right to it and get what you're supposed to get what you're supposed to get done this hour and get what you're supposed to get done this hour, so that when you get to the end of X amount of hours, you can also get to yourself. Now, I wasn't really great at that in the beginning. I worked a lot of 18-hour days, but I was just on fire and in love with what I did.
Right.
And I did it for years and years and years. I think that you read the little opening in the book, Mitchner, it said something to the effect of, the happiest men in the world are the ones that you can't tell if they're working or they're playing. That was me. You couldn't tell if I was working or I was playing. You know? And that's a really great life. When you're doing, I won't say that I would do this if I had if I won a $10 million lottery, would I still go out and flip houses? Probably not. But for a guy who needed to have something to do to make some money, that was as good as it got.
Sure. I want you to talk a little bit about, there's a chapter called I think it's the moat theory. It was kind of a neat concept for, I guess, starting from a base of security. We talked like Warren Buffett's Don't Lose Money. If you can talk a little bit about the moat theory.
Well, it was absolutely a game changer when I heard that sentence that financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income. That was a complete game changer for me. Because see, I always thought when you talked about financial freedom, that meant you were rich. People that were financially free were rich.
Right.
They were already wealthy. And that sentence didn't say that. It said, you're financially free when your passive income exceeds your wants and your needs, which means if I wanted to live in a tent at Canyon Lake and I just needed $1,000 a month, that if I had two houses netting me $500 apiece, I could wake up every day of the week in that tent and say, what do I want to do? Now that doesn't seem so glorious that, okay, so you've cut your overhead way down, so you can live in a tent at Canyon Lake and say that you're independent. But that's not the point. The point is that if what I want to become an expert in is X, now I can do that 24 hours a day until I'm an expert, and then I can go out and make the real money and change this situation I live in. But it affords me the time to become who I want to be, and work on it every day, every hour of all year long. And that's the only importance of like keeping it down.
Right.
So in the moat theory caused me to do a couple of things. It caused me to analyze what was my overhead. How much do I need? Because before then I never knew how much I needed. And it's kind of a lost place when you're making all this money and you don't know how much you need and how much is excess.
Right.
Because if you don't be careful, your excess will be what you need next month.
You'll just spend it,
Well, no, you'll obligate yourself to them.
Okay.
What used to be excess this month
I see.
will become what you have to have, and you get yourself in this problem. So there was this defining moment that, okay, what I want is I want to be financially free. Now, how much do I need? Well, at the time I needed like $3,500 a month or something, which was not, which I'm saying is not bad. If I needed $80,000 a month, it'd be a whole different story. But all I needed was $3,500 a month. And so my focus became absolutely clear, and I started making decisions on how close does that get me to that 35? Where am I at now? We're at 15. So if I get this house, we're up another 3. So we'll be at 18. So we only need, and you were like, and then one day you hit it, and you get this victory, but then you always are maintaining, if I take on this boat, how much is it going to add to my moat? How much do I got to, and so on a small, insignificant, frivolous scale, it made me start paying attention, which helped me as things got bigger and bigger and bigger, because I never took my eye off my moat. And my moat, my pride and joy is to have kept my moat down as low as I can, and to keep my income. Because then what happens is after you have enough to pay for your moat, as you start to make more, then this is money that you could potentially do R&D with, or research and development, or you can go out and experience some things and maybe not be as successful as you want. You can drop the drawbridge down, you can go across the moat with this extra money, and as long as you don't risk what pays for it's in that moat, you can go out here and get the living crap pummeled out of you, and it's okay. You can come back, you get back in the moat, pull the drawbridge back up, and you say, what did I do wrong? and you got time to heal, and you got time to think about what you did wrong, you got time to reanalyze, make a new game plan, because the whole time it's being paid for. You don't have to go out and have a job to make this payment for this house and this car and this air conditioning bill.
Right.
So you're getting to concentrate on how to be better all the time. And how long would it take for you to actually get better if that was the kind of life you had, where you could go out and fail, you could come back, everything's paid for, you could start to re-establish your savings, build a little bit more up, go out and try it again now with your newfound knowledge.
Yeah.
Even if you failed on that one, you came back and you did it the third time. But how many times would you actually fail? At some point in time, you're going to, okay, I got it figured out. Took me a little while, but I got it figured out.
I think the average person probably does the opposite, don't they? They make their moat bigger and bigger.
I don't know. As soon as they make some money, they go buy a new car and they do all this stuff.
And then it gets
That was
bigger.
my main goal. When I made money was not to increase my moat, to increase my security, so that I could. So the next time that deal came through that needed 10 grand down, I had the money. I didn't have to do all that.
Right.
Because I know that if I'm handling it, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed that it's going to go right, but what I am guaranteeing you is that it won't be because of lack of work. It won't be because of lack of effort. It won't be because of lack of want to. I mean, sometimes I made mistakes too, you know, but I knew that it would have to be some kind of miscalculation or some kind of lie or something, because it wasn't going to be because I didn't do my job.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the reason you're in the business outside of the money. What do you like to do in your free time? I know that music's a big passion of yours.
Oh yeah. I actually can do that anywhere, because contrary to popular belief, I don't play an instrument and I don't sing very well. I write my songs to the snap of my finger and I sing it. Like if you were to sing your favorite song right now, just start snapping your fingers, start singing. That's what I do. But I change the words and then I manipulate the melody to where you can't recognize it. That's what I used to do when I started out. Now I just invent melodies. And then if I like that, if I like the song that I'm singing, then and once I get it finished, I just go to the studio, I talk to my publisher, and if they like the song, then they bring the boys in and we'll spend about an hour charting the major chords and make sure that the chords are what I'm hearing. And then once I say the basic chord set is correct, then someone does an arrangement around it, and 9 times out of 10 I'm very surprised at where they take my song, because it's in a really great direction. These guys are really good. Every now and then it's kind of like, that didn't work.
Yeah.
So I've done hundreds and hundreds of songs. It's a good thing I don't make a living doing songs, because I haven't made a lot of money from writing songs. But that's not what I do. You know?
Yeah.
Part of me says I don't want to move to Nashville and become a songwriter, because then the only thing left of my childhood, the last bastion of my childhood, the last little thing that I like to do for me would become a job, and I don't want that to happen.
Right. I love the fact that your book comes with a soundtrack. That's kind of neat. And you said you have to explain that to people sometimes.
Well, I try not to explain it, because there's no explaining it, right? It's like, how would you say? I said, and it comes with the CD. Well, what's on the CD? It's 19 songs. What do the songs have to do with it? Don't worry about it. Just you'll figure it out. You know? What I did was, if there was a chapter there that I had written, you know, it's about the chapters of my life, and some of the chapters of my life. And so if I had written a song during that chapter, having to deal with that chapter, then if it fit, I put it on the last page, I put the lyrics. But the problem with songs is that they look like third grade poetry without the melody. So in self-defense, I had to put the CD in so you could actually hear what it sounded like, because if you just read the words, songs, they look like poems, but they're very elementary. A, B, A, B, A, B. And without the melody, they don't stand up.
So talk to me about your passion for the outdoors and hunting.
Just always been a hunter. My dad, that's one of the ways that my dad and I bonded, I guess, or he grew me up hunting.
Yeah.
So we've been hunting. I mean, I remember carrying a 30-30 when I was, you know, it's kind of crazy today, but I was carrying a 30-30 like in the 7th grade, you know, the 6th grade. You know, hey mom, where's the 30-30? That's over there. Okay, I'm gonna go hunting. I mean, can you imagine? To me, it seems kind of unrealistic now to give a 6th grader a high-powered rifle and say, "Well, we'll see you later." But we did it all the time. Yeah. And nobody got hurt, but we didn't expect anyone to get hurt, because we kind of been through the ringer
Right.
with that deal.
You told a story about how your dad slipped a bullet into the chamber to teach you a lesson.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever had a firearm go off unexpectedly?
Unexpectedly? No, I've never had it. No.
Okay. It's a life-altering moment.
Yeah.
You know, and you can only get that experience by that having happened.
Right.
Unfortunately, it usually happens by accident, and under that set of circumstances, you know, there's a huge chance that someone's going to get hurt or killed.
Right.
So what my dad wanted to do is he wanted to get me that experience without having me have to take the risk of almost killing someone or myself.
Right.
So he wanted me to get that shock. And shock and awe is used in word form, but it's really a great word for this because you just go to a whole different dimension.
Sure.
You know? So he gives me this 30-30, and we're going to dry fire. It's the first time I'm ever going to shoot this 30-30. We're going to dry fire it, so I could learn how the pull of the trigger is, how long the pull is, or how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sends me for a Coke, and while I'm gone, he puts a real shell in, and he doesn't tell me. And then he says, you know, why don't you try that trigger a couple more times, and then we'll go to the live ammo. And I said, okay. Well, then I sit down and I pull the trigger, and the gun goes off. And so I got to get that experience. I thought it was pretty smart. I got to get that experience that, man, because I broke the cardinal rule. The rule around the house was, if you touch a gun, you check it to see if it's loaded.
Mm-hmm.
That means if you set it down and you walk away, if you touch it again, then you got to check to see if it's
Sure.
loaded.
Yeah.
And the last thing you ever wanted to ask my dad was, hey, Dad, is that gun loaded? Because he'd just slap you right upside your head.
Right.
You don't ask a person if the gun's loaded. Go see if it's loaded.
Sure.
And so I made the mistake. I didn't check because it was in this environment, and he was telling me what to do, and he was saying, you don't, even if you're dad, you still got to check.
Yeah.
So, never forgot that day. You know, you're a little kid, 6th grade, 5th grade, I don't remember how old, I was probably younger than the 7th grade. When a 30-30 goes off in your hands unexpectedly,
Yeah.
you're not going to forget it. You're not going to forget it your whole entire life.
Mm-mm. All right, so let's get back to when we dropped you off into town with a car, $20, cell phone, don't know anybody. How would you find the private money?
Okay, this is the key for every new investor in the whole wide world. It took me, I read this concept in Nothing Done by Robert Allen. I read it, and it took me 8 years to own it. You understand the difference between reading something and owning it? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Till I owned it, till I knew exactly what they meant. Oh, that's what they mean. Okay, here's the point. Once I have a deal under contract with some time, and that deal is a smoking hot deal, like say I picked up a $35,000 house for $7,000, I can get it for $7,000, I can get, let's just say $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's $30,000. Maybe we could use any numbers we want, I'm just picking some numbers. In the South Side, that's where I would go. Because I got the best chance, with no money and nothing, to make a deal with that kind of person like that. Fast. So I pick up a house that's potentially worth $35,000, I get it under contract for 10. This is the magic. I control that piece of property with $10 or whatever earnest money I put up. I couldn't have put up much because I only got $20.
Yeah.
I probably could put up $1 because they're not sophisticated. Again, that's why I went down there.
Right.
That deal's worth money, and I can raise the money now at will. I just need to go to the organization or go to the place or get on Craigslist and say, look, I got a house for $35,000. I got it under contract for 10. Someone give me $3,000 and take my deal. Now I went from $20 to $3,000 first move, and I'm back down there. I'm back down there tomorrow in the same neighborhoods, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now I got a hamburger. I got a full tank of gas.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got to take a shower.
Sure.
Things are a little bit better. I got some time now. I bought myself some time. But you don't need money to write contracts. Get that through your head. You need zero money to write a contract. What you need to learn how to do is to write a contract. You need to get the pieces of paper, the physical pieces of paper. You need to understand the options that are on there. You need to understand how to work those options. And then you need to understand how to get your happy butt out there in front of somebody and present an offer on deals. If you present 25 offers, you will buy one house. I don't really care who you are, how dumb you are, how smart you are, how good looking or how ugly you are. You go write 30 offers, you're going to get one.
Mm-hmm.
Even a blind dog can find a bone. And that's what happens. So in the beginning of your career, You're just a professional deal writer.
Mhm.
And the money comes after that. Everyone out there wants half of your deal.
Sure.
I want half your deal. Call me. You know? But if you're going to call me, let's make sure that you've done your CMA, you've done your homework, that you know that it's a deal. Don't, you know.
Right. Right.
When you go to the pros like Brian or Sean or whatever, you need to go there with your folder documented why this is a deal. And if it's not a deal, they'll tell you. But don't make them go dig up the details.
What you're saying is before they go out and worry about how am I going to find private money, how am I going to, I've got my LLC,
I know they're all worried about
my
all
business
that.
cards,
They're worried about all that.
my letterhead.
Don't worry about any of that. Don't even need a business card.
Start writing.
You need to
contracts.
say, well, let's back up. Let's define it. You need to know how to establish value. So you have to have some way to pull up an address and go, this house is worth this much based on
Yeah.
what? You need to find a way to establish value.
Right.
It's probably going to have to do with a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I only have $20 and a cell phone. So I'm either tapping the computer from my cell phone or I'm going to the library.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that you need money. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all excuses.
Right.
But when I get a little more money, I'm going to do it. And it don't cost any money,
Sure.
hardly. I bet you if you drive up and down the streets of San Antonio for 8 hours straight, you'll have a list of 150 vacant houses. Anybody want to bet me? Actually, don't bet me. I'll pay someone $100 to bring me that list. So you want to make $100 today? You
Sure.
can go from $20 to 100, right? Just by just giving me a list.
I like that.
It's not. People worry about. They worry about the stuff way out here. They don't worry about the.
Right.
And you don't have to worry. See, when I talked about doing like risk adverse, if you're risk adverse, don't do things that are risky.
Right.
Just go get a contract.
It's riskier to spend the money on the business card and the LLC.
Yeah, it's way riskier to buy the LLC. That's $800 or $600.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at how much people put in,
Corporation,
yeah,
prepared
before they do anything.
Yeah, I didn't form my corporation until I like flipped like 20 houses.
Yeah.
And then someone said, "You need to form a corporation." I said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that."
Yeah.